What up, everybody? How you doing, Sanjay? I'm doing pretty good, man. Thanks for asking. Ryan, what's up? Nice to see you. I wasn't here yesterday because I wasn't feeling very good from my vaccine. I got my second dose yesterday, and I was a little bit under the weather. I had to miss my morning classes and stuff like that. And I also had something to do at night anyway, so wasn't here yesterday, but we are here today. A little office hours action. What's up, Ray? How are you? Yes, and Nathan is correct. Jeez Louise was the very first. I've started being a little more aware of who actually is here first and who's not here. Yeah, Discord notification is like, what is it? Maybe a 10-second delay? Which is pretty good, pretty good. Not a bad delay, actually. Compared to the old one, the old bot I used to use for the notification could delay up to like a minute sometimes. We got some real dieharders who just sort of lurk on the stream, and then as soon as it comes on, they jump into it. Yeah, sometimes I start a little early. It depends. Nathan, your strats are being plagiarized. Cheers, Sanjay. My girlfriend brought me a, what is this? Sunright fruit tea today. It's not bad. It's tasty, but very sweet. This is going to be a high glycemic food here. And the glycemic index of this is not so good, but it's very good. It's got lemon and orange in it. Yeah, YouTube is a little bit less popular than Twitch for people watching. I started out doing YouTube only, and then I switched to doing them both on Wednesdays, but on other days I do Twitch, so that's sort of like the more standard platform that I've been using. You don't have a Twitch, Ray? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. You don't need one. The other days are more casual. They're not really so when I stream on Twitch on the other days, it's more just for fun, kind of relaxed. It's not a strict office hour stream like these Wednesday ones where I do both YouTube and Twitch, so yeah, nice try, Sanjay. Nice try. You can't do that. Can't pull that kind of move here. I'm not doing push-ups for 100 stars. It's a 5K investment, man. Trying to scam me. I almost fell for it. For like about 5 seconds, I looked at it and I was like, oh no. Do I have to do push-ups right now? Sanjay, you can't see the problem was what you just did is you inspired your little trick, your little what you thought was an innocent little move. It now inspired real action on my part when I don't real like energy expenditure now I'm gonna have to give. All right, though, it is what it is, right? You got to do it. So I have to do 10 push-ups. Got it. That is a 5K investment. I think Nate the Great is still working towards his delayed gratification investment, which is 100K. I don't know how close he is. He's got to be within like 15K. As far as I remember, his last report out of how much he had was like 60 or something like that. But that was like a couple weeks ago, maybe, or a week or so. Okay. Time for me to do my push-ups. I don't have a push-up debt, Nathan. I have all my push-ups are caught up. These are fresh. This is the top of the batch here. These 10. All right. Here's your push-ups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And a clap. That clap was for you, Sanjay, for your little... I gave you a bonus 1 push-up clap, 1 clap push-ups for you almost trolling me with your attempt. Okay, so we'll see if anyone has questions today for office hours. We may or may not. Oh, Doom Kaiser coming in. I can't believe it. You're gone for like a week or two. You come in, the first thing you say is you call me out on a flex and you assign me 10 push-ups. That's nice to see you again as well. So Ray, so on Twitch, so the reason why I kind of like Twitch a little more than YouTube is because it allows you to be more interactive in the chat. So on Twitch, in the chat, I can show you real quick. Satoshi. Cheers, man. Nice to see you. So if you look in the, hold on, let me main screen this. So this is the Twitch chat that you see here. On Twitch chat, you get, but for as you watch, I think it's as you watch. There's these gold stars here that you can accumulate by watching, and then you can redeem them for different things. So you can see kind of like you can use 1,500 stars to suggest a video that we watch. You can use 2,000 stars to make me name an item that I'm using in a game, if it's possible in that particular game. You can, for 3,000, you can suggest a research topic, and then 5,000. Here's the 10 couch push-ups. And then there's this one, the coveted delayed gratification VIP award. If you can save up your stars so you get 100,000, you get the VIP award. So that's what these are on Twitch. And yeah, I don't know why. I feel like YouTube. What's up, Arya? Nice to see you. I'm doing well, Satoshi. How are you doing, man? All good? I feel like YouTube is kind of let me think. Like if I look at YouTube's chat, what are the features on YouTube's chat? I feel like YouTube really is sort of bungled up the whole streaming stuff. Like, why doesn't YouTube just literally copy what Twitch does with their chat? It would make YouTube live streaming so much more engaging. Let me see real quick. So this is YouTube's chat, right? If we see them side by side. So YouTube chat has essentially like no features. It has some emojis. But if you look at the emotes, all the different emotes you can use here on Twitch is way more. There's way more emotes. Yeah, I have infinite stars. I could redeem this delayed gratification if I really wanted to. Oh, how to earn gold stars. So if you watch every 5 minutes, you get 10 stars. If you follow the channel, you get 300. I don't know what these are. There's different ways. What's up, Blue? Nice to see you. Blue showing off the squid emoji. You have to like chain together a bunch to make a giant squid. That's cool. I wonder why those are your favorite emotes. So your Toshi spring quarter just started. Makes sense. So we're starting April. You're starting your spring quarter. Makes sense. All right, Blue. Have a good night. Thanks for stopping in. That's your favorite emote? Is the Doritos chip? I don't know if I have a favorite emote. If I had to pick my favorite emote. Except, well, I mean, I could just pick my own emotes. But if I had to pick a different emote. Actually, you know what? I know what my favorite emote is. It's I mean, this is very like everyone's favorite emote, but like Cat Jam is pretty nice. I think that's a pretty good emote. Wait, I don't know. I don't think it's called Jones Pog, though. It's called Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones 2 Pog? Yeah, it's a bad name. Pop Cat? Which one's Pop Cat? Cool Cat, DX Cat, Glitch Cat, M Cat. I don't know which one's Pop Cat. Hi, Bharati. How are you doing? Oh, it's a meme. It's not. It's not a. It's not an emote. Let's see. Popcat. Which one should I look at? This is Popcat. Wait, Popcat. Isn't this the laugh out loud emote as well? Oh, wait. So it was a hoodie. Wait, so there was a cat in a hoodie. Wait, what's this? We need to look up the Know Your Meme. It was a cat in a hoodie, and then they photoshopped the cat out of the hoodie, and it just left the hoodie behind, which looked like a big mouth. Wide mouth popping cat, also known as Popcat, refers to a series of videos in which uses two images of a cat named Oatmeal, one with its mouth closed and the other photoshopped as if the cat is holding it wide open. Oh, so this is the... Wait, they both look photoshopped. Like, that looks photoshopped too. That's it? That's the meme? That's the entire meme. Okay. Fair enough. All right. What did I just get? All right. Doom Kaiser, you sent 10 my way. Wait, do 10 clapping push-ups and you won't send another 10 my way. Oh, no. I don't know if I could do 10 clapping push-ups. That's actually really hard. Let me think. All right, I could try. I will try, but I will also be the first to tell you that it's totally possible that I might just fail. Okay, we're gonna try this and see how this works. 10 clapping push-ups, and then Mr. Chang, you gotta hydrate right after. 10 clapping push-ups. Okay, we'll try this. No promises. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh. All right, there you go. Wait. You're bluffing? Well, I called your bluff anyway. Got a little tough. I honestly don't think I could have done 11. I think 10 was where I was maxed there. Okay. What up, Appa? What is up? Is there an emote for I called your bluff? What's the emote for like got ya? Like nice try. Not much. Pretty chill today. Appa. I've been the The weather has been pretty warm lately, which has been nice. So I've started wearing shorts again. And my legs are like super white. But it's been pretty good. Okay. I don't know. Anyone have any questions about office hours stuff? No? Wait until everyone gets the mask tan. The mask tan. That'd be hilarious. People are actually going to get one, huh? That actually happens. What is biology? So what is biology? That's a really good question. It's basically like asking the same thing, like what is life? Because biology is the study of life. Just definitionally, biology is the study of living organisms and their environments. So that is biology in a nutshell. Oh, wait, you actually have a question, Sanjay? Oh, yeah, I saw that question in the tutor Discord. I just didn't get a chance to answer it yet. But yeah, why doesn't atherosclerosis occur in veins? So this, the easy answer, the simple answer for why atherosclerosis doesn't occur in veins is because there's not enough pressure in the vein. So if you think about it, let's say here's your heart. Oh, wow, that's terrible. Here's your heart. When your heart pumps blood, this is the aorta here. This is the biggest artery in the body. When your heart pumps, the blood goes into the arteries directly, so it has the most pressure because it's directly connected to the pulse of the heart. So when the heart pumps, all of that blood is forced into the arteries, which then bear the brunt of the pressure. The veins, which I'll draw in blue here, return the blood to the heart. So this is called the Vena Cava, which is the largest vein in the body that brings the blood back to the heart, right? And so this is already, so all of this blood that went from your aorta all throughout your body, right? So this just goes down all the way down to your, like, let's say you have your, your feet down here, right? Let's say you have a really weird shaped foot, okay? That blood goes down all the way, is pumped all the way down to your foot, where it drops off the oxygen to the cells in your feet. And then once the blood has been delivered, right, and the oxygen has been delivered, the blood has to return to your heart. So it returns all the way up. The distance between the initial pressure, which is starting here in the heart, and the veins, which are here, is so far removed that the amount of pressure the veins experience is too low to cause the tears. Remember, atherosclerosis, in order to develop, requires tears in the arteries, and the tears occur because of high blood pressure. But the pressure in veins is not very high, so they don't get tears, therefore they don't get atherosclerosis. Does that make sense? Bharati, what happens when there is a paralysis of cilia? So the way to think about it is like cilia are those like those little tiny hair-like things that are on your respiratory tract that sort of sweep mucus out of your respiratory system. So if they're paralyzed, they're no longer sweeping, so the mucus can get You can get an accumulation of mucus in your respiratory tract and a buildup, which would require you to cough a lot more to force the mucus out. It might make you more susceptible to infections and getting sick because the mucus, right, traps bacterial and viral particles and dust and things like that. And if it's not swept out of your respiratory tract properly, it can accumulate and at more likely risk of infection if it's not being removed. So if your cilia are paralyzed, which can happen due to smoking, so smoking cigarettes, chronic cigarette smoke and inhalation of that smoke can lead to the paralysis of your cilia. They stop sweeping the mucus. It leads to a buildup of fluid, which is why you get like that smoker's cough that you hear about, people like coughing up very loose coughs that like you hear a lot of stuff. All that loose coughing, gravelly cough sound is the mucus being coughed up that is not being properly swept out by their paralyzed cilia. And also makes you more vulnerable to infection as well. Does that make sense, Bharathi? So cholesterol can't enter the veins, but cholesterol can enter the arteries and cause plaque, which causes atherosclerosis. Yeah, basically. So imagine. So if I do like if we clear this, let's take a nice section of an artery. Okay, we have a nice artery here. What happens, and then down here you have a vein. If you look at like, let's see. Trying a good picture of this. Okay, first, before I draw this, take a look at this picture. So this picture right here is a good example of what we mean by the pressure is different, okay? So here's your arteries. So the pressure, the blood is being pushed this way from the heart. So the heart would be over here on the side. You'll notice that as you move from left to right, the pressure, blood pressure, is high in the arteries and then drops as it goes into the capillaries and veins. We're going to talk more about this in class tomorrow and Friday. But just so you get the idea, right, you can see the pressure is definitely way higher in the arteries, right? And so the important thing to keep in mind is that pressure, right? So you have high pressure, and then you've got low pressure. And so what you end up getting is more stress. So what you can get are like, we'll call these like micro tears. Micro tears. And we have, let's say, little, what do we call it? I'll use orange. Okay, so these orange things, we'll call this cholesterol. Okay, so cholesterol is sort of floating in the bloodstream. What can happen is the cholesterol can deposit itself, right, into these tears, and you can get like cholesterol buildup. this whole thing, this right here, this is a plaque, which leads to atherosclerosis. Now, down here, there's no tears. Pressure is too low to cause them. So you don't get the buildup of the cholesterol in the tears, you don't get the plaque, you don't get the atherosclerosis. The plaque is a little more complicated, to be honest. If you want to learn more about atherosclerosis in higher detail, take physio in your junior or senior year. You go into a little more detail about exactly how the plaque forms. It's more than just cholesterol. It's actually cholesterol combined with some white blood cells that try and get in there and clean it out. They're trying to help clean out the plaque, but they get stuck and trapped in there, and they become these things called foam cells, which over time build up a plaque. And if the plaque builds up too much, it can start to actually inhibit the flow, right? So you could imagine that, like, over time, let's say 20 years later, if this goes unchecked, that's terrible handwriting. 20 years later, you might have something that looks like this, right? Just imagine a giant plaque that's sort of potentially blocking most of the blood flow. Blood flow is blocked. That can lead to something like a heart attack or a stroke down the line. So in arteries, there's high pressure, so cholesterol enters. Okay, so real quick, cholesterol, the tears, so it goes high blood pressure, causes tears. The tears allow cholesterol to get stuck in those little tears. That cholesterol builds up over time to create a plaque. That plaque is known as atherosclerosis. If that plaque builds up too much, it can block the flow of blood, which could potentially lead to a heart attack or stroke. In the veins, low pressure ensures no tears and cholesterol can't triple. Yep, exactly, Sanjay. That's the gist. That is it. So I got my hydrate. Sorry, I didn't see hydrate from. This is for Mr. Chang, and this is for Nathan. What information should you know for the temp check? So what you need to know is two things. The respiratory system. So you need to know, like, the parts of the respiratory system, their function, and some of the disorders that are associated with them. And specifically, you should know some of the issues in the respiratory system that's caused by vaping and smoking, right? So what I'm testing on essentially is the respiratory system video lecture and notes that we took in class, combined with the vaping video that you took notes on as well. So if you want to ask any particular questions about respiratory system or vaping, it would be a good time now to ask if you're trying to prep for the temp check coming up tomorrow or Friday. Bharathi, how many questions will the temp check have? It's going to be a shorter one. I think it's only going to have like maybe 8 to 10 questions. So far I have 8. I might write a couple more between now and the time I give it on Thursday. What exactly is cartilage? It's a type of tissue. It's a type of tissue that is used mostly for structure, but has flexibility. So cartilage is a really nice thing to be used for. The body uses it for a variety of purposes, but mostly it's either used for like padding in joints. So like on the ends of some of your bones, there's a little bit of cartilage, so that when the bones kind of are coming into contact with each other, it gives a little bit of, it has a little bit of give, and it reduces some friction, because anytime you have bones rubbing together, it can damage the joint, so you have some cartilage to protect that. Sometimes we use cartilage as a way to provide some shape to something. So for example, your nose, right? The very end of your nose is actually a piece of cartilage, which is why you can like kind of push your nose around a little bit, because it's not pure bone. It's a soft piece of cartilage at the end. So it's got, so let's see, cartilage. Let's look up the technical definition. So it says, if we go to like, just like a Wikipedia article, right? It says cartilage is a resilient and smooth elastic tissue. So elastic meaning that it can stretch and bend, unlike bone, which is very rigid. It's rubber-like padding that covers and protects the ends of long bones and the joints and nerves, and is a structural component of the rib cage, the ear, and the nose. The bronchial tubes. So yeah, that's another, yeah, so your trachea and bronchi are made up of cartilage as well. It's not as hard and rigid as bone, but it is much stiffer and much less flexible than muscle. Because of its rigidity, cartilage often serves the purpose of holding tubes open in the body, including the rings of the trachea, which we talked about. So if you ever, you can always feel, if you take your finger and you kind of push a little bit and feel right below your Adam's apple, so below your larynx, which is your Adam's apple, which is where your vocal cords are, right below that, you can feel the trachea tube. if you just run your finger up and down, you can kind of feel the rings, right? You feel that like ringed tube. That is the those are the rings of cartilage that keep your trachea propped open so air can flow through it. Mouse pillow, if food slips past the epiglottis and doesn't get lodged in the trachea, could it end up in the lungs? Yes. So there's something called, man, what's the term? Shoot. Asphyxiation? No, not asphyxiation. Man, there's a term for when you inhale food so deep it actually gets into like the bronchioles and ends up in the lungs rather than just in the trachea. It's beyond choking. It's like asphyxiation. Shoot, what is that term? Does anyone in the chat know what I'm talking about? Death? No, not necessarily. You don't die no always from this, Doom Kaiser. Aspiration? Aspirate? Aspirate? Aspiration, the inhalation of fluid while drinking. Oh, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong term. Oh, pulmonary aspiration is the entry of material, such as pharyngeal secretions, food or drink, or stomach contents, from the oropharynx, which is like your pharynx cavity, into the larynx and lower respiratory tract. Yeah, aspiration is what it is. Aria, dysphagia. Wait, dysphagia? I don't know. Dysphagia. Wasn't that on? Didn't I see that here? Dysphagia. Dysphagia. Thanks for the follow, Lucasaurus Rex. Appreciate it. So dysphagia is actually, it says difficulty in swallowing. Yeah, geez Louise, that's what it looks like. When dysphagia goes undiagnosed or untreated, patients are at high risk of pulmonary aspiration. That makes sense. So if you have a hard time swallowing, it's probably more likely that you could aspirate. Because you can imagine you're like trying to swallow it and then you breathe and it just goes down the wrong tube and it goes into your trachea. You could, yeah, that would imagine. So yeah, it seems like dysphagia, Aria, could lead to aspiration, but the process of something going into your lungs is aspiration, pulmonary aspiration. Are you even still choking if food gets that low? Well, that's a good point. That's actually a really good point, Lucas. Probably not, because my guess is that if it goes that low, it might have gone past. So here's the thing, right? So let me pull up my paint thing. So here's your trachea. Okay, trachea. And the trachea, we know, branches, right, into your two bronchioles or bronchi. Yeah, you're right. And so this is what I was trying to think. So if, let's say you have some food, right? Right. If the food is here, that's for sure choking, because now air can't get to your lungs. It's blocked, completely blocked. However, if you swallow or if you inhale so vigorously or some such way in which the food moves further down your respiratory tract, deeper and deeper, right? And it somehow goes down here. Oops, wrong color. Now you'll notice that when you breathe in, the air actually is going to make it into half of your lungs, even though it's going to get blocked here. So you'll still get some air. Now, you may still be able to breathe, but this is still a problem, right? Still an issue. Still a problem. Because that's going to cause a lot of irritation. It's going to cause a lot of inflammation. You're going to have extreme discomfort. You're going to need to get that removed big time. So. Bots in the chat. This is what happens when let me see what happens if I can block. Oh wait, I want to ban. Ban. There we go. Ban, ban, ban. And then ban. Wow, 3 of them. That was a trifecta of we got botted. Okay, yeah, so that's the issue. So you still want to get this removed. I mean, it's obviously going to be a problem, but you're right, Luchasaurus Rex. You're not technically going to in jeopardy of dying because you actually are getting some oxygen. That's a good point. Why do you get lung cancer? Well, that's a hard question. I mean, it depends on how much detail you want to know. Because if you want to get really detailed on why someone gets lung cancer, you'd have to go into the details of how a cell becomes cancerous through a variety of mutations in certain genes, in certain cell cycle regulating genes. Bharati, were you here for our first you weren't here for the first semester, right? Bharati, you joined the class starting at the beginning of the second semester, right? Remind me, I think that's the case for you. Because if that is the case, then you missed our unit on cancer, or our section of the class on cancer, where we talked about how cancer is caused. You joined the end of September. The end of September. Okay. Yeah, Lucas, physiology is the last unit. Cheers, Erebus. I'm sorry, I did not see your hydration. My fault. So you were there. Okay, so you were there for cancer. So do you remember all of that stuff? How there's different genes in the cell that code for regulatory proteins like p53 and cyclins, and how when those get mutated, you end up in a situation where the cell starts dividing uncontrollably. So that's the basis for how cancers form in general. With lung cancer, that process is occurring, but in the cells of the lung. And the mutations that cause that are usually caused by some sort of exposure to carcinogens, carcinogenic compounds. These are chemicals or substances that are known to cause cancer and cause mutations. Oftentimes, in the context of smoking cigarettes, there are tars and other carcinogenic compounds within cigarettes that are known to cause cancer. And so when you smoke cigarettes, right, especially if you're someone who's like a chronic, long-term smoker who's smoking, a pack or more of cigarettes a day, every day for years and years and years, you're essentially what you're doing is you're just bathing the cells of your lungs day in, day out in these carcinogenic compounds, and you're causing mutation after mutation after mutation. And so eventually, right, these people that develop lung cancer just accumulate the right combination of mutations and their cell becomes cancerous. It starts dividing uncontrollably. And now they have a cancerous tumor in their lungs. And so the formation of the cancer in the lungs is relatively along the same sort of process as any cancer would form. It's just that the mutations are caused by, in particular, chemicals, usually in the form of smoking cigarettes. But, it's also possible to get lung cancer in non-smokers. So you don't even need to smoke, and you can just be really unlucky and get lung cancer too, unfortunately. But smoking cigarettes is like just going to increase your risk dramatically, right? Because you're exposing your cells to all these different carcinogens nonstop. One thing to keep in mind is that it's also totally possible that you could be really lucky and never get cancer, be a pack of smoker a day and never get it. That happens too. But the question is, do you really want to risk that? Because what you're doing is it's like you're rolling, every time you smoke a cigarette, you're rolling the dice. Like, are you going to cause a mutation? Maybe, right? Is that mutation going to cause cancer? Maybe, maybe not. You need a certain number of mutations of the right kind to cause cancer. So it's just like every time you smoke a cigarette, you're rolling the dice. And so the question is, do you want to be the person who's rolling that dice more often, or would you rather not roll it at all and just have a lower chance? Sanjay, earlier you said that people are often able to cough up the ingest material during aspiration easier than when you're choking. Yeah, it might be because when you aspirate, oftentimes you're not aspirating like a big chunk of food. It's usually liquids or smaller pieces. So then you just sort of, your cough reflex kicks in and you're coughing out these small chunks rather than if it's too big, it can get lodged and stuck so that when you cough, there's not enough force to dislodge it because it's too big. Carcinogenic compounds themselves don't cause cancer, but they cause mutations that cause cancer. This is actually really kind of weird. I actually don't 100% know the difference at either area, but there is a difference between so it's weird. Compounds are classified as mutagenic and carcinogenic, and I'm not 100% sure why we distinguish these two, because we know that cancer is caused by mutation. So if a substance is carcinogenic, it must therefore also be mutagenic. But maybe there's a class of compounds that are mutagenic that cause mutations, but that don't cause cancer. But that's weird too, because I would imagine that at a certain point, if you're exposed to a mutagen for long enough periods of time, the right mutation might trigger a cancerous cell and therefore would be carcinogenic. I don't know. That's a really weird one. Let's look this up actually, because I'm actually curious. Carcinogenic versus mutagenic. Okay, let's look at this. Bharati, do we need to know the vaping timeline? No, you don't need to know the vaping timeline for the temp check. Okay, mutagenicity and carcinogenicity are clearly correlated. One study showed that 157 of 175 known carcinogens, approximately 90%, are also mutagens. The somatic mutation theory of cancer holds that these agents cause cancer by inducing the mutation of somatic cells. Right, that's what we just talked about. See, like, I would love to see an instance of a mutagen that is not a carcinogen. That would I would love to see an example of something that causes mutations, but does not cause cancer. All right, the Ames test. Many test systems have been devised to screen for carcinogenicity. These tests are time-consuming, typically requiring laborious research with small animals. More rapid tests do exist that make use of microbes such as fungi or bacteria and test for mutagenicity rather than carcinogenicity. The most widely used test was developed in 1970 by Bruce Ames. The Ames test uses 2 auxotrophic histidine mutations which revert by different molecular mechanisms. Further properties were genetically engineered into these strains to make them suitable for mutagen detection. Sanjay, some mutations are altering metabolism of cells or cell DNA, which can cause uncontrolled cell division, which is cancer. Apparently, there are some mutagens in salmonella that aren't carcinogenic. So, yeah, I guess maybe that's the thing, Sanjay. You may be right there, is that, like if the substance is very specific in where it causes the mutations, it's possible that it can cause mutations in places in the genetic code that do not lead to uncontrolled cell division, right? So it would have to be a kind of mutagen that's very specific in where it causes mutations so as to not cause a mutation in a part of the genetic code that is related to cell division. Oh, wait. Alcohol is a good example of a non-mutagenic carcinogen. Alcohol increases the rate of cellular proliferation, increasing the probability that a mutation will occur in the next cell line. Oh, interesting. Okay. So yeah, you can be a carcinogen without being a mutagen because if you make cells divide faster, you're literally just increasing the chance that during a cell division, a mutation will occur. So it's like the alcohol is not causing the mutation directly. It's causing an increased rate of cell division, which then increases the chance of a mutation during the cell division, which could lead to cancer in the next cell line. Interesting. Yeah, Ashi, we'll talk about your question in a second. I just want to get to the bottom of this mutagen versus carcinogen thing. So it seems like mutagen and carcinogen can be mutually exclusive terms. Like it's possible to have a carcinogen that is not a mutagen. So Sanjay, I know that you said all mutagens are potential carcinogens. All mutagens are potential carcinogens unless they are highly specific. So it's possible to have a mutagen that is non-carcinogenic as long as it's very specific and causes mutations in places that are not related to cell division. And on top of that, it's also possible to have a carcinogen that is not a mutagen. It just increases the rate of cellular proliferation, which indirectly increases the chance of a mutation. Got it. Khan Academy has a video here on mutagens and carcinogens.
So today we're going to talk about mutagens and carcinogens and how they can cause DNA damage. But first, I want to review the central dogma of molecular biology and how the genetic information of a cell is stored in the form of DNA, which is then transcribed to form
we already know that.
2 different categories. So let's say we have a person over here. A mutagen could be classified as endogenous if it comes from inside this person's body, and it's some we call superoxide A. The next time we can't deal with them anymore, jump into a DNA double of 5VU, it's an analog. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is what a carcinogen is.
Yes.
Now, carcinogens can be mutagens, but not all of them are. But in general, you can say that a carcinogen is something that can lead to cancer, which, if you remember, is when cells in an organism divide uncontrollably and can form big masses of cells called tumors. Now, some carcinogens will work by making mutations in DNA that lead to cancer, but sometimes they might carry out their effect simply by increasing the rate at which a bunch of cells divide without actually affecting their DNA.
Yep, that's what we
And
learned.
some examples of carcinogens are tobacco, which come from cigarettes, asbestos, which used to be used as home insulation, and even UV radiation. Now, you may be wondering, and itself, are O2.9. What are some examples of some body that are? What are some examples of poisons could be mutagen that can cause or mystical event that can cause genetic mutation? Two different categories. So let's say we have a person over here.
All right, well, no. He's not going to explain why some we're good. Okay, let me answer the questions in the chat. So Ashi, you have your question about the difference between bronchitis and pneumonia. Bharati, you have a question about asthma. What causes it, and when do attacks occur? So let's start with maybe your question, Bharati, just because Ashi's attempted to answer it right there. So Ashi said, you think it's the muscles spasming around the bronchial tubes, which temporarily cuts off the flow of oxygen. That's what causes an asthma attack, I think. Yes, that is essentially what causes an asthma attack. It's the spasming of muscles. So what ends up happening is these muscles spasm and tighten, which can constrict the bronchi, which can make it hard to breathe. What triggers an asthma attack? It can be a variety of different things. It depends. So, for example, asthma attacks can be triggered by exercise. It can be triggered by allergies. Let's see. Let's look up a list of asthma attack triggers. So we can use like the CDC's website. Asthma's attack can happen when you're exposed to asthma triggers. Your triggers can be very different from those of someone else with asthma. So what are some triggers? Tobacco smoke, mites, dust mites, outdoor air pollution, different kinds of pets. Oh, pests. That's hilarious. I read that as pets, and then I saw cockroaches and mice. I was like, what? Who the heck keeps cockroaches as a pet? Pets, mold, cleaning and disinfectants. Other triggers can be like colds, viruses, physical exercise, strong emotions. Interesting. Yeah, so it seems like it's a very broad spectrum of what causes asthma attacks. And then as far as what causes asthma, this is actually, if this is something that we aren't 100% sure on. I think asthma is still something that we're not completely sure on. Like why some people have it and some people don't. Let's see if this even says. Asthma is a disease that affects your lungs. It is one of the most common long-term diseases of children, but adults can have asthma too. We don't know all the things that can cause asthma, but we do know that genetic, environmental, and occupational factors have been linked to developing it. If someone in your immediate family has asthma, you're more likely to have it. Okay. Being exposed to things in your environment like mold, dampness, or other allergens like mites or smoke have been linked to developing it. Air pollution. Yeah, I feel like asthma is one of those things that we don't have a full grasp on, like why some people get it and some people don't. It seems to me like it's just a variety of different things, genetic, environmental. Genetic and environments both play a role. But again, I'm not 100% sure if we have this perfectly nailed down. Maybe we could look at something a little bit more technical than the CDC's sort of summary or the frequently asked questions on it. We can look at the NIH's overview of it. causes. Yeah, the exact cause of asthma is unknown. It's often the result of a strong immune response to a substance in the lungs. It's also inflammation, Bharti, as well. An asthma attack is also due to inflammation of the bronchi. See, like you see normal airways here, and then you have inflamed airway here. So you have a narrowing of the bronchi, which makes it very difficult to breathe.
Asthma is a chronic condition that affects the airways in the lungs. The airways are tubes that carry air down deep into the lung. When you have asthma, the walls of your airways become inflamed. This makes the airways sensitive. The airways react strongly to certain irritating things that you breathe in. This reaction makes the airway muscles tighten, and much less air flows to the lungs, making it...
Those airway muscles, right? That's what Ashi was referencing. The muscles around your bronchi begin to tighten. And the inflammation is also occurring as well.
Harder to breathe. Cells in the airways may also make more mucus than normal. People with asthma may experience wheezing, coughing, shortness of breath, and chest tightness. They may also wake up at night coughing and short of breath. When the symptoms get worse, that's called an asthma attack. Asthma affects people of all ages, but it most often starts in childhood. In the United States, about 25 million people have asthma. That's 1 in 13 Americans, and 6.2 million of those people are children. Asthma is a long-term disease that can't be cured, but it can be controlled. Most people with asthma live normal, active lives by taking a proactive role in managing their disease.
Yeah. Any other questions about asthma, Bharti, after that? Let me know. So let me look at what you and Sanjay have been talking about, Ashi. So main things we ended on were the location and some symptoms. Treatments are different. Bronchitis can cause sore throat and persistent cough, and pneumonia can cause fever, fatigue, etc. Acute bronchitis is usually caused by virus and therefore is treated with antiviral and sometimes bacteria, in which cases antibiotics are used. For pneumonia, lots of things could be the cause, like viruses, bacteria, fungi, etc. They're just the same way. But yeah, that's pretty much the same stuff. Okay, the difference is mainly just like the cause and stuff. But then if pneumonia can lead to fever, which can lead to bronchitis, which can lead to pneumonia, is that like a loop? You can have both at the same time. Bronchitis can lead to pneumonia and with a high risk of... Well, let's look into a little bit more about pneumonia and bronchitis. I'm trying to remember, but I can't even remember what we looked up last time. Bharati, can asthma spread? When you say spread, do you mean like, is it contagious from person to person? The answer is no. You can't catch asthma from somebody else. But if you mean like, can asthma spread and get worse in a person? Yeah, you can have like weaker or stronger asthma attacks. What does this one look? What does this say? Nothing? Not that helpful. Oh, wait, Ashi, this is what you were talking about before. Bronchiolitis versus bronchitis. I guess there is a distinction between the two. What up, creepy? Hello, hello. I didn't even know bronchiolitis was actually a thing. The more you know. The more you know. Well, can pneumonia be caused by a virus? I think it can. Fluid and pus-filled airspace contains bacteria and blood cells. That's bacterial. Let's go to the good old CDC. Viruses, bacteria, and fungi. So a common cause of bacterial pneumonia is Streptococcus pneumoniae, which is also known as pneumococcus. So Ashi, I'm pretty sure that like probably the main difference between pneumonia and bronchitis is literally the location of the symptoms, whether it's in the alveoli or in the bronchioles. Or bronchi. And maybe some slight differences in symptoms. I mean, it seems to be the case right now that that's the difference. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Both lung conditions have similar symptoms, so it can be hard to tell the difference. They affect different parts of your lung. Pneumonia symptoms are usually more severe than those of bronchitis. If you have a high fever and chills, it's probably pneumonia. Acute bronchitis is usually caused by a virus. In less than 10% of cases, it's caused by bacteria. Germ enters the bronchial tubes and causes irritation. Pneumonia usually results from a virus, bacteria, or fungi. Inhaling irritants can also cause this. Main difference. Bronchitis occurs when germs or irritants make their way into your bronchial tubes. Pneumonia happens when these enter your alveoli, which are small air sacs in your lungs. There you go. I think that's kind of the gist, Ashi. All right, shoot. What's your questions about the circulatory system? Also, by the way, Ashi, keep in mind, before you start asking too much, keep in mind that I actually, and this is partially my fault, I accidentally assigned the video lecture too early. I had meant to assign it after our next class, because the video lecture was more on the cardiovascular system's health, like complications with it, like atherosclerosis, strokes, heart attacks. I had meant to first lecture in class on the general circulatory system, like talk about the blood flow of the different parts of the heart, how it goes into the veins and arteries and how it connects around and what blood is. Like that was what I had meant to first talk about and then assign that, but I got ahead of myself and I assigned that first. So if your questions are relating to the flow of blood, what blood is, the structure of the heart, the difference between veins and arteries and how they connect, all of that stuff we're going to cover in class on Thursday and Friday. So hold your questions related to those particular things for a little bit. Because when I was looking at the homework that I assigned, right? I was looking at like the homework, right? So I had assigned this is technically shouldn't really be called circulatory system and cardiovascular health, because it's really just cardiovascular health, which should be technically a follow-up to the circulatory system. So it's kind of like if I had accidentally assigned the vaping video before the respiratory system video, which doesn't really make sense. You probably want to learn about the system first, then learn about the issues with it. So that was my fault from the start. So other than that, though, if you have questions, now is a great time. Also, keep in mind that the temp check tomorrow is not on the circulatory system. So understanding that material is not pressing in terms of like our temp check coming up. So the first one was about one of the checkpoints. Why does the atherosclerosis have in arteries and not veins? Oh yeah, that was Sanjay's question, closer to the beginning of the stream. So I would say just go back and find the part where I talked about that, unless Sanjay has the time and could give you the answer. What up, 20K Reed? What browser is this? This is Brave. It's called the Brave browser. I was informed about the Brave browser by a few people in the chat about maybe last week sometime. I've been liking it so far. It's built off of Chrome, I believe, if I remember correctly. Let me see. If you look at like the background of it, it's an open and free web source developed by Brave Software based on the Chrome browser. It blocks ads and website trackers and provides a way for users to send cryptocurrency contributions in the form of basic attention tokens to websites and content creators, along with the ability to keep the cryptocurrency they earn. It's released for Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, and iOS. Google Chrome is from Chromium, so is Microsoft Edge. Wait, so Chromium, Chromium is a free and open source project developed by Google. Wait, it's developed by Google. So then, wait, Microsoft Edge uses Google's Chromium source code? And Opera. Huh. Let's see. The next question, really long. If cholesterol can only enter the arteries when the lining is damaged, then how does HDL enter a totally healthy person's bloodstream to help with maintaining cardiovascular health? Wait. So, Ashi, when you talk about, there's a difference between cholesterol entering the lining of the artery versus entering the bloodstream. So, when you eat food, your body will absorb those nutrients, right? And it'll go into your bloodstream. So, any cholesterol is going to be in your bloodstream, regardless of whether it's an artery or a vein. It's just floating around in your blood when it's released, when it's absorbed either through your food or when your body releases some cholesterol through other processes. So you're always going to have cholesterol, whether it's HDL or LDL, floating around in there. When it enters the lining of your arteries, that's because there are micro tears in the arteries due to the high pressure in the arteries. And then that leads to plaque, which leads to atherosclerosis. So, yeah, Sanjay, you're partially right. Or wait, I'm not sure. Okay, so it just enters the capillary. But how does HDL maintain cardiovascular health if it doesn't go into the arteries? It does go into the arteries. So, Ashi, HDL and LDL are both in the blood in the arteries. So maybe if I should draw a diagram here, that might make it a little clearer. All right, here's your artery. Let's say you've got so these equals LDL, and then equals HDL. So they're both floating around in your arteries, right, as the blood rushes through them. Okay. Now, the problem is when you have micro tears, so let's say you've got little tears in the, oops, I actually want to use a different color there. Let's use black. You've got some tears, right? These are like tears, we'll say. The LDL likes to deposit itself into those tears. Okay? This will lead eventually to a buildup of a bunch of LDL, right? Like a plaque in the lining of your artery. Okay? Exactly, Ashi, your last question. So LDL is bad if it enters the tears and stuff because when the macrophages will go there and stuff. Yeah. Yep, exactly. Right. So when you say, how does HDL maintain cardiovascular health if it doesn't go into the arteries? That's a false question because it does go into the arteries, right? That's why we see HDL here. Now, do you still have a question about why HDL is good for your cardiovascular health? Do you want to know what it does to maintain cardiovascular health? Okay, so what it does is, turns out that HDL can go and, HDL actually goes and like binds to and grabs LDL and carries it back to the liver and like brings it to the liver. So the more HDL you have, the more it can like grab these LDLs, right? And bind to them and then bring them back to the liver, which means you don't have as much LDL that's able to get into the arterial lining, which means less plaque, which means better arterial health and better cardiovascular health in general. So we can say that this is like binding LDL. Can HDL break apart plaques too? Good question. I don't think so. Actually, I don't know. Let me think. Let's look it up. I'm not 100% sure. What's up, Hamza? Thanks for stopping in, man. Chromium is used by most popular browsers because it's easy to apply it, but the problem is that it is too buggy. Oh, okay, Hamza. What do you suggest in place of Chromium? Do you have a preferred browser? Because I've been using I was just talking about it with 20K Read. I've been using Brave, which is based off Chromium. Let's just look up HDL real quick. And hold on, HDL and atherosclerosis. High density lipoprotein, HDL, and atherosclerosis, the role of antioxidant activity. Levels of high density lipoprotein are generally inversely associated with the risk of the development of atherosclerosis. The mechanism by which HDL imparts protection from the irritation and progressive of occlusive vascular disease is complex and multifactorial. The major anti-atherosclerotic effect of HDL is felt to be reverse cholesterol transport, which I was just talking about. HDL has been demonstrated to scavenge cholesterol from the peripheral vasculature with transport to the liver, where it is excreted in the biliary. How the heck do you say that? Biliary? Biliary? That is a really hard word to say. Biliary? Ugh, I don't like. That needs to be deleted from the English language. Biliary. However, HDL exhibits multiple other physiological effects that may play a role in its reduced risk for atherosclerosis. HDL has been demonstrated to exhibit beneficial effects on platelet function, endothelial function, coagulation, inflammation, and interactions with triglyceride-rich lipoproteins. High density opposed atherosclerosis by removing cholesterol. They also remove cholesterol from foam cells, which is when the white blood cells attack the plaque. So maybe a little bit could help reverse atherosclerosis. Oh, biliary? Is that how it's pronounced, Sanjay? Biliary?
Biliary.
Yeah.
Biliary.
All right, that's better. Biliary. So it seems like if one of the things that HDL does is removes cholesterol from foam cells, then I would argue that it probably has some plaque removal abilities, because if we look at a foam cell, if I believe a foam cell is a white blood cell that is laden with a bunch of LDL. It has all this LDL inside of it. So if HDL can come on and take out these lipids, these lipid droplets from these foam cells, it probably decreases the plaque. Think. I'm trying to look if there's a good diagram that has HDL foam cell, and maybe let's write HDL. I want to kind of see if there's a picture of this, a good diagram of this, of the HDL effects on the plaque. Maybe just look at this. Too small. What is this first one? Yep, it looks like so this picture looks like HDL is kind of potentially trying to take away the LDL that's getting into the macrophages and causing them to become a foam cell. So here's your macrophage taking in LDL, and then the way it gets rid of it is HDL can kind of do this, right? Or at least that's two of the ways. Hamza, you use Brave too, but for school you use Chrome because the school automatically installed stuff. Oh, okay. You've yet to see a better browser than Brave and Opera that use Chromium. So Opera, is that a Linux thing? Multi-platform, well. Wow, 1995. Jeez. I like Brave so far, so I'm sticking with Brave right now. Wait, is Firefox based off its own thing? It's not based on Chromium. Runs on a quantum engine. Okay. Ashi, why does stress increase someone's chances of atherosclerosis? For a variety of reasons. So, one thing is, let me go ahead and draw a line here. So when you increase stress, so when stress goes up, Couple things. One, it causes an increase in blood pressure. Right? Which leads to increases in micro tears. More chances, more places for plaque to deposit and LDL to deposit. On top of that, increase in I believe it increases your LDL, right? Which equals increase in plaque. 3, increases appetite, which means you can increase, depending on if you eat poorly, you like snack, you can increase LDL that way. Which one? What are you asking why for? I think it might. So I think this is related to the cortisol effect. So when increase of stress, so hold on. If I want to be more clear on this one, maybe we say, hold on, let me double check that correlation. So if we look at cortisol and LDL. High levels of cortisol from long-term stress may be the mechanism behind how stress can increase cholesterol. Adrenaline may also be released, and these hormones can trigger fight or flight. The response will then trigger triglycerides, which can boost bad cholesterol. The relationship between cortisol, adrenaline, blood glucose, and lipid profile of undergraduate students under examination stress. Wow. They just straight up tested students during finals and were like, let's test your stuff. Results. There was a statistically significant increase in cortisol, adrenaline, total cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, and LDL cholesterol in students under examination stress compared to the non-examination period. All right, stress and cholesterol. So if we want to complete this, I think a better way to do this would to be like something like that. So when you have stress, you might have higher blood pressure, which could in general increase the ability to have micro tears. Those extra micro tears now are more places for now also, because of the stress, more LDL due to the cortisol reaction and the increased appetite. With those LDL can find their ways to those micro tears, which leads to more plaque, which leads to atherosclerosis, which eventually could lead to heart attack and strokes. kind of a long chain reaction there. Wait, are you asking me if you're stressed and hungry, is it healthier to eat unhealthy food or eat nothing at all? Why not just eat healthy food? Why not channel that stress and that appetite into a healthy thing? Why does it have to be either nothing or something unhealthy? Can we not meet in the middle there? Yeah, but theoretically. So if you have a choice of either starving to death or eating yourself or eating like terrible food, what do? I mean, like, this seems like a very unrealistic scenario where you're like literally stuck with either you're gonna starve and not have any food to eat, or you're gonna, or all you like. So what theoretical world is this? Like, set the stage for me. Are you living in some world where like you have no ability to get healthy food, so you're just stuck in like a room with just Cheetos everywhere and ice cream and big gulps? Okay, so your scenario is very unrealistic, but, well, actually, before that, if it takes forever to prepare. Not really. Okay, like, you can have healthy snacks. Have some, like, I don't know, almonds around, or have some trail mix that, doesn't have, like, too much, like, M&Ms or, like, sugar in it or something like that. Or have, I don't know, have some, like, something, like, simple, like, some veggies around or something like that, or maybe some like carrots with hummus, or these take like 2 seconds if you just prep ahead of time and like stock yourself up with some healthy, decent foods. All right, so in the theoretical world, the question is like, what's your time frame? Like, how long? Like, because if it's like just for if it's just for like one night, then you could probably go without eating. But if it's like for multiple days, then you probably should eat something, because you're going to need calories to survive, right? I mean, that's kind of obvious. So you're saying you're eating your meals normally, your healthy meals, but then during these times all you have on hand are unhealthy snacks. Yeah, then don't eat the unhealthy snacks. Eat nothing. It's always better to eat nothing than to eat unhealthy snacks. If you're already getting your daily caloric needs met and you're eating healthy meals otherwise, then a snack is just excess calories, and are unnecessary if you already have your calories met. And on top of that, if it's an unhealthy snack, it's adding extra unnecessary things, like maybe extra sugar, extra saturated fats, extra LDL potentially. Chris Chicken, food is food. Food is food. I would generally disagree with that. I think there's definitely differences in quality of food. If you're memeing, then I understand what you're saying. But like from a health perspective, a nutrition perspective, there's massive differences in quality in terms of different foods. So when you're talking about the surgery, bypass surgery, it's just like, think of like a detour. Like let's just pull up a quick image of this. Or maybe I'll just draw it. So think of this, like here's your heart, right? I'm going to draw a heart just in a very basic sort of structure. Oops. Oh wait, this isn't here. All right, there's your heart. That looks weird. But across your heart, there is this, it's called a coronary artery. It's on the surface of your heart. It branches off from a thick old artery. Oops. Called the aorta. Which is the biggest artery in your body. It's the one that leaves directly from your heart. So let's say, oh wait, what? Why is that? I don't need white. 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 Thank you. Yeah, so they basically go usually into your thigh, into your leg somewhere, and they remove a section of an artery in your leg. And then they bring that section of artery. And what they do is, let's say that the block, let's say there's a block here. Let's say there's a block right here. From like a blood clot. Okay. Now, everything past this blood clot is no longer getting blood, right? Then you can imagine all these little branches going off to try and feed the heart. So what you need to do is, if you don't fix this, you will die, because everything after this will die because it's not getting oxygen and the heart muscle will start to die. So what you have to do is one thing you can do is do a bypass surgery, where you take a new artery, right? So there's an artery here. Right? And you cut it out and you bring it up and you basically stitch it on. You put it like here. You attach it here, and then you bring it and you pipe it in. Right? So now the blood is flowing properly. Right? The blood goes it goes down through here and gets in below where it needs to go. Okay? Yeah, Sanjay, that's right. Ashi's right. This is not on the temp check. Lucas, is there an age restriction when buying Sigs and E-Cigs as a prevention method? Yes. There is an age restriction. I believe the age restriction is 21 right now. In California, at least. Oh, how do the surgeons do this, Ashi? I don't know. I'm assuming that they literally just make an incision in the... I'm assuming they have to stop the flow of blood, right? So they probably pinch the blood flow in some way, and then like stitch it on, and then restart the flow of blood. That'd be my guess. I mean, I'm pretty sure you could find video of a heart bypass surgery being done if you really want. I think YouTube has surgery videos. I just don't know if I can show those on stream because they're kind of like graphic. Yeah, there's definitely videos on YouTube. So this one, like for example, this one says there's one called off-pump coronary artery bypass INT graft technique with no-touch aorta. I don't know what that means, but that maybe they don't even touch the aorta in that case. Interesting. No, you wouldn't get, Ashi, no, you would not get in trouble if you watched on your school account. So I technically should be able to watch a medical video on stream. I just don't know if people are interested in seeing some of that because you're looking at, a graphic. Some people are squeamish by looking at the heart. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to watch it. I don't want to expose people to that if they're not interested in seeing it per se. And it's also a little bit beyond the scope of the class. So that's something that you can watch on your own time. There's an animation here.
A coronary artery bypass graft, or CABG, is performed to improve circulation to the heart muscle in people with severe coronary artery disease. In this procedure, a healthy artery or vein from another part of the body is connected or grafted to the blocked coronary artery. The grafted artery or vein bypasses the blocked portion of the coronary artery, carrying oxygen-rich blood to the heart muscle. One or more coronary arteries may be bypassed during a single operation.
So, for example, my grandmother had a quadruple bypass, I think, 4 or maybe 5. She had 4 or 5 different blockages on her coronary arteries that she had to have bypassed all in one go.
Before the surgery, an intravenous line will be started, and you may be given a medication to help you relax. CABG procedures are done under general anesthesia, which will put you to sleep for the duration of the operation. A breathing tube will be inserted through your mouth and into your throat to help you breathe. A catheter will be placed in your bladder to drain your urine. Coronary artery bypass surgery generally takes 3 to 6 hours. During a conventional bypass surgery, your surgeon begins by making an incision in the skin over your breastbone or sternum. He or she will then cut the sternum and move your rib cage in order to get to your heart.
Jeez.
Throughout the procedure, your circulatory system will be connected to a cardiopulmonary bypass pump or heart-lung machine. This machine temporarily performs the functions of your heart and lungs during the surgery, allowing your heart to be stopped while the surgeon sews the grafts into place. One of 2 blood vessels is typically used for the grafts: the internal thoracic artery in the chest or the sapnous vein in the leg. For the internal thoracic artery graft, your surgeon will leave the upper end attached to the subclavian artery and divert the lower end from your chest wall to your coronary artery, just beyond the blockage.
That's the easy move.
Your surgeon will then sew the graft into place.
So it looks like stitches.
For the saphenous vein graft, your surgeon will suture one end to the aorta and the other end to the narrowed artery just beyond the blockage. With the graft securely in place, your surgeon will use electrical signals to restore the heartbeat and attach a temporary pacemaker to the heart. Once your heart is again beating normally, the heart-lung machine will
So that's kind of crazy. So in order to do this, they have to stop your heart because obviously they can't, if there's blood being pumped through the aorta, right? They can't really do this effectively because as soon as you start to like try to stitch it here, blood is like squirting out, right? So they have to stop the flow, which means stopping your heart. So it seems like when you're under anesthesia here, your heartbeat is stopped for a while. Probably not that long. They probably stop it right when they're ready to stitch it, and then they start it up right after they've stitched it. I don't know, Lucas, how they do stitches that small. I think they probably use certain kinds of surgical equipment that allows them to get that small. It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know much about the surgery procedures here. Well, so the vein thing, Sanjay, it's not that the reason why veins have lower pressure is because of where they're placed in relationship to the heart, right? Normally a vein is further away from the heart, so it doesn't experience as much pressure from the beat of the heart. But now, in this case, if you're attaching a vein to the aorta, which is an artery, and then to this coronary artery, this heart artery, it's going to be taking some decent pressure. So it's actually, I wonder how they deal with that, because veins are not designed to take that kind of pressure. Arteries tend to have thicker walls and are sturdier so that they can withstand the excess pressure. So if they're using veins here, if they use this leg vein, I imagine that this vein is going to be experiencing unusual pressure for the vein. And I wonder if there's anything known to cause like issues with these over time due to the pressure on them. Yeah, so I don't know. But I do know that there is such thing as people needing a bypass of a bypass. So for example, let's say that you have a really unhealthy lifestyle and an unhealthy diet, and you get a lot of atherosclerosis, and you get a clot or a blockage in your coronary artery, and then you need a bypass. And you get that bypass, and then you just go back to your completely unhealthy lifestyle. You can even get another block in the bypass, and then they have to bypass the bypass. So you've got you're stacking bypass on bypass, which starts to get really, really weird. So that's why you gotta fix your life at that point. You can't be bypassing a bypass. The most pressure's on the doctors. That's true. True, Lucas. Good point. But yeah, I'm curious to see wait, do you guys remember the name of the vein that they used? What was the name of the vein that they used from the leg?
The saphenous vein in the leg.
Saphenous vein. How does the saphenous, I don't know if I'm spelling this right, saphenous vein withstand the pressure when used in bypass? Wait, why your surgeon should use arteries, not veins, in your bypass? I spelled saphenous wrong. Every year in the United States, about 270,000 patients undergo coronary artery bypass grafting to reroute blood around blockages in the arteries feeding their heart. When a single bypass is performed, the gold standard is to use the left internal thoracic artery. Okay, so that was the one that we saw as well. So that's the gold standard. Because, again, it's an artery, so it has the ability to withstand the pressure. And it's also, really close, so they don't have to, go all the way down to your leg to remove something. It's just, right there. So they just detach one end and stitch it on. But when more than one bypass graft is needed, most surgeons use the saphenous vein from the leg. A recent study found that using the radial artery from the arm produced a superior and longer-lasting result. When radial artery grafts were used, the bypass stayed open longer and patients were significantly less likely to suffer a heart attack or need another revascularization than the saphenous vein was used. Why veins are a poor choice? Stripped from the leg, the saphenous vein makes a long, clean, pliable conduit. But veins aren't designed to carry blood under pressure. Their walls don't expand and contract. About 6 to 8% of saphenous veins clog before the patient leaves the hospital. By 1 year, 10% are diseased or occluded, meaning obstructed. The disease process accelerates in saphenous vein grafts between 5 and 10 years after, requiring the majority of patients to have another revascularization procedure. So why do surgeons choose the saphenous vein rather than the radial artery in 90% of cases? Surgeons want to perform an expeditious and safe operation that gets their patients out of the hospital fast. Long-term outcomes are not tracked. Until now, there has been little incentive to use multiple arterial grafts. It makes the procedure more technically difficult and longer and increases the risk of infection at the surgical site. Okay. In a meta-analysis of 1,000 patients, the use of the radial artery as a second bypass conduit received the combination of death, heart attack, and reduced the combination of death, heart attack, and revascularization by 33% over the saphenous vein grafts. Revascularizations fell by 50% and heart attacks by about 30%. Nice. Okay, so yeah, that's what I thought. I thought that makes sense to me. So if y'all ever need a bypass, ask your surgeon. Be like, hey, dude, give me the radial artery graft, not the saphenous vein graft. You understand me? I want that artery. I want that thing that can withstand pressure. Now, I hope that none of you ever get into the case where you need a bypass surgery. Hopefully you practice a healthy lifestyle, good exercise, good diet. And so you're never getting subjected to this kind of surgery because this is really last resort stuff here. Well, no, the bypass is usually just one. Unless you have multiple blockages, then you'd need 2 different bypasses. Exactly. I read somewhere. Hey, it's the Cleveland Clinic. This is a health website. Okay, you understand? Here, we'll look. Okay, all right, Lucas. If you're calling me out on my credibility, I'm giving you a better. Here's a website. This is a credible website. This is a peer-reviewed journal. Okay, saphenous vein graft versus radial artery graft. Searching for the best second coronary artery bypass graft. So this would be for people who need more than one bypass in the moment, right? So if you only need one, you're going to get your thoracic artery. You're going to get that one. That's standard. That's just your run-of-the-mill first one. If you need a second one, that's where the choice becomes. So let's see what this says. Multiple conduits are used, and the golden standard is the left internal mammary artery to the left anterior descending aorta. Although all approaches were advocated by doctors, the use of the saphenous vein grafts became the leading approach used by the majority of cardiac surgeons in the 70s. The radial artery graft was introduced at the same time, but was not as prevalent due to complications. It was reintroduced into clinical practice in 1989. The procedure was not well received initially, but has since shown superiority in patency, as well as a long-term survival after the coronary artery bypass. This review provides a summary of characteristics, technical features, and patency rates of the radial artery graft in comparison with venous conduits. Veins, right? Veins, venous vein. Current studies and research into radial artery grafts and saphenous vein grafts are explored. However, more studies are required to verify the various findings of the positive effects of the coronary artery bypass grafting with the help of radial arteries on mortality and long-lasting patency. So, and now I'm going to assume that if you are getting a coronary bypass surgery and you have a surgeon, I'm assuming that they know all this because they should be keeping up with the literature, right? So even if your surgeon was somebody who got their degree and they studied in the 70s, let's say they're like older or 70s, 80s, I'm assuming they still keep up with the latest data, right? Oops. How often do I find our textbooks to be outdated? Not that often. So the thing is, when you're talking about basic biology, like an intro bio class, most of the stuff you learn in intro bio is like very foundational. This is like material that is like the basic kind of bottom of the biological like knowledge. It's stuff that has been tested over and over again. So you're not going to find much like outdated. Like the theory of evolution is relatively strong. The structure of a cell is what it is. The function of the mitochondria, the function of the chloroplast. These are all things that are like pretty well understood and don't change too much. Now, there are some areas, of course, where things can get outdated. So some modern genetic stuff is probably is changing. So this idea of like epigenetics and some of these sort of more new takes on genetics are a little interesting. Biotechnology changes really quickly, so we can't really rely on a textbook for that. What else? But yeah, like a lot of the stuff is relatively standard. Like ecology, pretty standard. Food pyramids, food webs, ecosystems, these are things that are pretty much well understood. The stuff that changes most frequently are going to be the things... let me think. There's the stuff that changes more frequently are going to be the things that are like more on the cutting edge of science. So more at a molecular level, right? So big picture stuff like the theory of evolution, which is over long periods of time, the idea of ecosystems and species interactions. These have been studied a lot longer. But as we go smaller into like genetics, and those kind of things, we start to see new stuff. So. So Shimaguchi was a teacher from a long time ago at Monte Vista. So the one that we use is the Dragonfly Bio textbook, right? Is that right? It has a dragonfly on the front. This one? This one, right? 2008. It was published in 2008. Oh, no, sorry. Published in 2002. So it's almost 20 years old. So, you know, I mean, most of the basic stuff in bio hasn't changed in 20 years. But, you know. It's also the reason why we don't really use it as often. We tend to not, like, to rely on the textbook too much. Almost 20 years ago, 19 years ago. We're in 2021, man. The first person who used the textbook, Jeffrey Wang. So in 2002, just to give you a reference, 2002, I was a ninth grader. I was a freshman. I would have been leaving freshman year, starting sophomore year in 2002. So Jeffrey Wang was someone that was my age. So he would be a person that's my age right now. Jeffrey Wang would be about my age. Maybe a year older than me. Did I get to use the Dragonfly textbook? I don't think so. I don't even remember what textbook I had. I don't remember what textbook we used when I was in high school. I forget. But if you look up like Miller and Levine bio textbook, like what's their most recent edition? Just look on Amazon real quick. What did they come out with? This was their 2010 edition, the parrot one. Maybe the honeybee one. This one probably is the most recent. When did this one come out? January 2018. Yeah, so this will be their most recent one. 2018. So this would be the most recent one. But yeah, you can see like how pricey it is to replace textbooks, right? If a textbook is like $100, now it's probably not going to be $100 if you're buying in bulk for like a school, but it's still probably going to be at least like 50 or 60 bucks a book. And if you do the math, right, like if it's, let's say $50 a book, and we have about like 500 freshmen, $25,000. It costs like $25,000. To get a new textbook for one class. Yeah, and then the other thing is like I don't even know how updated really like this book would be. Gets good reviews. Like I don't know how much different this would be than our current one, aside from just like a new nice cover and some like different organizations of the chapters. So here's the thing. It was probably going to be different because it'll be aligned with something called NGSS, Next Generation Science Standards. So the one that we have, the 2002 one, the one with the parrot on it, or excuse me, not the parrot, the one with the dragonfly on it, that was written back when STAR testing was still a thing. So there was like the state standards were the STAR. Those have changed. So this will be aligned to fit the new standards more. So it'll include more things like more like new practices, like different kinds of skills and concepts than the old one. There was a teacher, oh no, not Hicks, Sanjay, Hicks. His name was Michael Hicks. He was a teacher. Then he became an assistant principal at Monte Vista for a few years, and then he moved to Washington or Portland, or excuse me, Washington or Oregon, and now he's a principal somewhere up there at a school in Washington or Oregon. Oh, Hicks isn't allowed to be sent on Twitch chat? That's weird. Okay, I'll allow it. You remember STAR testing? Yeah, STAR testing was like... It's gone now. No one does it. It's outdated. STAR testing. Let's look at the Wikipedia for it. Oh wait, no, that's not it. This one, STAR test. Standardized testing and reporting. It was replaced in 2013 and 14 with the CASP. So you guys will be taking the CASP soon. In your sophomore year, I think you take the CASP. Oop, I think my puppy is getting up. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and take my puppy out. So I'm going to probably call it a night now. Ashi, unfortunately, I don't have those right now. They're not going to help you study for the temp check, by the way. So it's not worth it. Don't worry about it. So, I will see you guys later. I'll see you tomorrow for the temp check. And yeah. So tomorrow I think we'll play some Warframe. I think I want to play a little bit of Warframe tomorrow on stream. All right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your night. I will see you tomorrow for some video games and a more chilled out stream. But have a good night. Bye, Arya. Bye, Lucas. Bye, Ashi. Bye, Sanjay. Have a good one.